Senator Rick Gunn, a graduate of Walter Williams High School, received a BS in Business Administration from the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. Senator Gunn is president of Gunn and Associates, commercial real estate firm, and they're in the 30th year of operation in Burlington. He's been an active member of the business community, having served as president of the Burlington-Alamance County Association of Realtors, Alamance Business Club, Burlington Downtown Corporation, and he's previously served as vice chairman of the Alamance County Chamber of Commerce. He currently serves on the Government Liaison Committee with the Chamber. He's a community leader. Senator Gunn has served on the Board of Salvation Army and the Girls Club, has been a budget review chairman for the United Way of Alamance County, served 5 years as president of the Young Men's Christian Association, very involved with the YMCA with us. And his alma mater, he currently served on the UNC Chapel Hill Board of Visitors. He was recently elected to a 3-year term at UNC General Alumni Association Board of Directors. He serves District 24, Alamance and Randolph counties, and is chairman of the Senate Commerce Committee, the Committee on Pensions, Retirement, and Aging. He's also a member of the Insurance, Transportation, Program Evaluation, Transportation Appropriations, and Workforce and Economic Development Committees. Representative Steve Ross graduated from Elon University with a bachelor's in political science and later obtained a master's of public administration from North Carolina State University, NC State. He first entered public service, serving in Governor Holshouser's administration from 73 to 75. Since then, he has had a successful career in finance with Merrill Lynch and Wells Fargo. He served 16 years on the Burlington City Council and served as mayor of Burlington from 2003 to 2007. Representative Ross is a member of Elon University's Board of Visitors and the Boy Scouts of America's Old North State Council Executive Committee. Representative Ross is currently serving his second term in North Carolina General Assembly House of Representatives, representing the 63rd District in Alamance County. He filed for his third term recently and is running unopposed. He has served us very well. He's served on committees including the House Committee on Local Government, Banking, Finance, Judiciary, too, and Transportation. In addition, he is chair of the House Committee on Pensions and Retirement and Commerce. In the past, he served on interim committees studying the issues of local government, the Jordan Lake banking law, state employee retirement systems. Presently, he serves on the North Carolina Internship Council and the Blue Ribbon Commission to study the building and infrastructure needs of the state. Very active in Boy Scouts. And also moderating today's session is Herbert Judon. Herbert's from Charlotte. We all know Herbert's been on our board. And congratulations to Herbert, but sad for us. We'll be losing Herbert very soon to the airport in Augusta. So Herbert, if you would come over and take over.
Good afternoon. Everybody hear me? I think I can stand right here. So the previous session that we had, we talked a little bit about the task force, and we got the perspective from some of the task force members. So this is a great transition that we get to hear the perspective from some distinguished elected officials on where they see aviation. And the way that we're going to run the session this afternoon, I'm going to ask the guest a couple of questions initially, and then we'll give the audience an opportunity to ask questions. And we've got a staff member that will actually bring the microphone around for you, so be sure to wait until you get the microphone before you ask your question. So my first question to the panel, the title of this particular session today is the importance of aviation in North Carolina. And what I'd like to ask is, from your perspective, kind of from a macro standpoint, what is your perspective in terms of the importance of aviation in North Carolina, and then bring it down to more of a local perspective? What does that mean for your particular district? And I'll start out with Senator Raven.
Well, I look at aviation this way. Years ago, when I was a young man, that was years ago, oh boy, and some of you all were. But before I go there, I'll say started with the Wright brothers in 1903. Knapp was there, and he will testify to this. That flight would have taken off from Wrightsville Beach, but even then they couldn't find parking. But I look at aviation through the transportation committee that I serve on, and with the Department of Transportation this way. Years ago, as I started, North Carolina got into the road business. Many states never did, a lot of counties and localities did, but North Carolina went into it as a state. And basically at that time, it was a farm to market situation. And we were going to grow North Carolina because of our farm commodity, and what we wanted to do is we wanted farm to market roads. And we did that. We did a pretty darn good job of it if you look at it nationwide. But today, we're in a different century, and we no longer need to worry about our farm to market as much as we do our communities to the rest of the world. And aviation is the mode of transportation that we need, or that we must use to ensure that. And so, not because I'm talking to this group, but because it's just true, with the global economy and with North Carolina's position as being the 10th and soon to be the 9th and continue to grow most populous state in the nation, we have to see a way to move our people and our commerce and our business globally and not just farm to market. And you're the folks who are going to do that.
Senator Gunn.
First of all, thank you for allowing us to share some perspectives today. It's always great to come down here to Wilmington. I am a commercial real estate broker and developer by investor by trade, so I do have a perspective that deals with aviation purely from a commerce standpoint. We're really, if you know anything about Burlington and Alamance County, we've got two major interstates running through there. We have two international airports within 30 or 40 minutes drive, and we've got any number in close proximity of the general aviation airports, including our own Burlington, which is just going through a runway expansion. Aviation is one part of putting the pieces together, because we all know that aviation by itself will not do a hoot for the state of North Carolina by itself. Nor will infrastructure and roads, nor will boats, nor will tax incentives, nor with anything. It's all about putting the pieces together, and you play a very important part of that. It never fails when we're either recruiting for business, as in trying to get industrial recruiters here. I get called, and the first thing that happens is the Chamber of Commerce goes out to the airport and picks up that prospect. Now that prospect's time is valuable. And when we got that prospect here, we better have them there and ready to go and get them out in a timely manner. And that's all part of how you set your first impression. I don't know, of course everybody knows about LabCorp, what they've meant to the state of North Carolina. Give you a little history. My dad, as a commercial real estate broker with Dr. Jim Powell, who started Roach Biomedical Reference Laboratories, my dad sold them the first building that they went in. And we've had a relationship with LabCorp, my firm, for literally decades. Not a night goes by that I don't hear that wonderful sound coming over my house of LabCorp coming to and from all parts of the United States and internationally. So I do know that aviation plays an incredible part in the puzzle that is so important. And we'll talk a little bit more about how I think we can put this puzzle together, if I can share some of those at a later time. But once again, thanks for having us here.
I don't know why I'm the one that got the orange microphone there. Yeah, I realized just a few minutes ago that there's something else I probably need to add to my bio, and that is I was a pilot for a number of years, and I don't fly now, but I sure miss it, and I probably landed at a number of the facilities that are represented here in this room today. And so, with that being said, I kind of come at this from a little bit of a different perspective. I know that as we become a global economy, there are different reasons why we're becoming more of a global economy. One, of course, is technological innovations, but the other is because people are more mobile. Everything is more mobile. We move things back and forth from country to country, state to state, much more than we ever did before, and that is growing really daily as we become more mobile and we become more of a global network. And so if we're going to participate in the global economy, we have to be able to participate in a big way in the way that all of this takes place. And obviously, as we look to the future, to me, a big part of that's going to be done by air, which obviously means more facilities and more investment into airports and the method that we use to become globally competitive. You hear a lot of talk here in the Wilmington area about becoming globally competitive and beefing up the state port for cargo ships. The conversation also needs to be really out front about beefing up what we're doing as far as air is concerned in airports, because to me, and maybe again, as somebody who's flown, I might be a little bit biased, I think that is the air, and airports being a critical component of that. Going back globally, or going back locally, or trying to bring it into a local scene, as was mentioned, I was mayor in Burlington, and back in the early 2000s, we were faced with what a number of communities in North Carolina went through, and that was the demise of the textile industry. So we were trying to, I hate to use the term reinvent ourselves, but we were trying to look at where do we go from here. And as Senator Gunn mentioned, we had a company in Burlington called LabCorp that operates the largest diagnostic laboratory testing facility in the world. And they fly samples in every day, every night. It's kind of a constant process. Samples being blood samples and genetic material, like stuff that's over my head. And those flights are on a very specific schedule, almost like commercial traffic. They go at a certain time, they come in at a certain time. And it's critical that the cargo that they carry be able to come and go, and be able to do it in a timely fashion and unobstructed. So with that in mind, we decided that way back then, that for us, economically, our airport was critical. And we needed to start making major infrastructure improvements, extending the runway that was way too short at that point in time. It was one of the issues that we had that we took care of. And then, of course, we had probably one of the best airport directors that's in existence, in Dan Danley. And I tell him all the time, I say, you know, for me, when I was mayor, I said, I got 2 employees for the price of 1. I got an airport director and an economic developer. But we went to work, and he really bought into the vision that we had. And so we went to work trying to recruit, and our first successful recruitment was Honda Aero, which is a facility that makes the jet engines for Honda aircraft. And since then, we've had a number of other things that have happened around our airport. And we're getting ready to have another big expansion as soon as we find the funding. So locally for us, we recognized, in our case, what it meant for us. And it really unfolded pretty much as we had thought it would. Maybe even better than we thought it would, because at that time when we started doing that, we had no idea we would get a company like the caliber of Honda to come in and set up shop on the edge of our runway. So you can multiply this all over North Carolina. It's the same story. As you go around North Carolina, it's critical. It's important that we recognize it. And I don't have all the answers as far as funding and the numbers that I see. where we're behind as far as infrastructure maintenance and improvements. But it's a dialogue that we really need to have a serious conversation about and try to move forward.
Thank you. So on the topic of funding, one of the task force, one of the recommendations that strategic investment, and any one of the panel members can answer this question, or all three. Can you provide just kind of your perspective on funding formulas for aviation, current, and what's your future perspective?
Well, I know back in the beginning, we used to put together a group and go to Washington every year. Dan's shaking his head, and we were trying to get funding for really things for us that were really critical as far as the infrastructure was concerned. And I learned very early on that money was beginning to dry up on a federal level. And so, we worked every source we could. And in the process, I mean, we were getting funding everywhere we could, but it was difficult. It's still difficult. I think that with the federal government beginning to, for whatever reason, decrease funding for certain projects, I think that it is critical that probably state government as well as local government, and I want to mention local government because that was the area that I came out of, and at that point in time, we kind of looked up the line for funding, and I realize now that local government's going to have to take a bigger role in trying to make all of this happen. It's going to be a team. It's going to be a team effort, and so I have a different perspective on what my local government back home should be doing, and that's opening up some new dialogue because of our expansion that we're talking about doing. And so I have no doubt that ultimately we'll be successful. It's just going to be a time process of trying to put it together and get the funding where we can.
Anyone else?
I'll weigh in very briefly on it. North Carolina is different in many ways in the way we do our budget and the way we fund things. And transportation in our state is totally funded out of transportation dollars that we generate specifically for that purpose. And for a time that was well and good. And going back again to the farm to market highways, that seemed to work. But we have been remiss historically on our other modes of transportation in the state. We happen to be the only state on the East Coast that until last year did not have a dedicated revenue source of funds for ports. And we have 2 ports. Most states are not that fortunate, but we had no dedicated source of revenue, nor do we really have a dedicated source of revenue to aviation, nor trains and movement of freight, and that is all very important. And I think we didn't drop the ball; we just never picked up the ball on that. And I'm very interested in looking at a dedicated source of revenue to the modes of these other modes of transportation. And I think that dedicated source should come from the general fund, not necessarily a pay-as-you-go or earn your own way. As we're doing it today, and there are ways to do that. We're going to have to be innovative. We're going to have to do things that folks say, well, we've never done that before, which seems to be the way government operates, and we're not going to do it now, and aren't going to take a look at that. And one of those may be an infrastructure bank, and then, just throwing this out, but with an infrastructure bank, general aviation airports might be able to borrow from that. Commercial airports might be able to borrow from that. And then, of course, you know well that a lot of matching funds and what have you. And if you could borrow your 10% and you knew you had it, and you knew we knew you were going to pay it back because you could show us a return on investment. I just think that's a business model that we can work with and a common sense way to go. But that's just one of many. I really believe, and I'm sincere when I say this, that the general fund side of our budget really needs to take a hard look at dedicating funds that we know will be there year after year after year, and that we just can't cut on a whim when we do our budget every 2 years.
Okay. Any questions from the audience? Anybody?
Okay, I got none.
Okay.
I think I've heard Senator Raven give us what is the return on investment into aviation in forms of for every dollar, what is the return on that dollar?
Bob, I can't do you. I thought you were asking me a question about Skipper. That's Bob's dog.
Okay, I'll try again. I said, I think I've heard you tell what the return on the investment is for
Yes.
aviation in the state. I
Yeah.
think for every dollar, that brings back 75 or $100, something like that.
Yeah. And, there's definitely, I mean, when you look at transportation as a field, not just at aviation, but anytime we invest in infrastructure, there's a return on investment, a positive return, 41% of the time. When you invest in education, which seems to always be the hot topic, and there are 170 people in the legislature that will never vote against education because there are 170 people who want to be reelected. There's a return on the investment only 38% of the time. Infrastructure cleans the clock in this state as far as a reliable return of investment. And I think we as legislators need to understand that, and we need to put our money where the best return is possibly going to be.
Any other questions from the audience?
Come on.
All right.
Okay.
Good afternoon. My name is Mike Langen, and I'm the President and CEO of the Raleigh-Durham Airport Authority. First of all, I want to say thank you very much for taking the time out of your day to come and speak to all of us about aviation. As you well know, we're all very passionate about it. We think it's important to the state's economy. With that, we have two different reports that we're going to receive today. One is the economic impact of the commercial service and general aviation airports in the state of North Carolina. And there's also a task force report. So those two things are great documents that lay out information about the economic impact of airports, and Senator, you actually talked about the return on that investment. So I guess I'd ask you to do two things. One is, could you kind of grade us as airport leadership? How have we done educating the elected officials in the state of North Carolina about how important aviation is and making that investment? And second of all, what recommendation could you give all of us, the organization, and also the airport leadership, and also the consultants that are here? What should we be doing right now to try to get our message across to the elected body in the state of North Carolina?
I'll give that a first shot. Thank you. I think that's a great question, and it really applies to many facets of state government. What is the return, and how do you communicate that? Yeah, the good news in the state of North Carolina is our economy is growing, and we do have a surplus, but it's kind of like winning the lottery. When you win the lottery, you got all these new friends that want to come up and get a piece of it, and that's kind of the way it works there in state government when we get the surplus. But to your question is what I would recommend to each of you is just remember that I'm really not a legislator, and neither are these gentlemen up here, and quite honestly, very few are. I'm a real estate broker. This guy keeps animals alive and births them and all that, and this guy tries to invest money. And my point is this: we cannot be experts about everything. So do not assume that we know a thing about the aviation industry in North Carolina, because the truth of the matter is the majority of our representatives and senators don't know a thing about it, which takes me to your point about what can you do to help educate us. Do get to know your representatives, but do always have the appreciation that you're probably telling them something that they have never heard before in their life when it comes to your message. Now, the good news is I don't think anybody, and this is good for you, I don't think anybody in the General Assembly will say aviation does not help the business climate in the state of North Carolina. If they do, will you please give me their names and I'll see what I can do about personally correcting their, they would not know what they're talking about. So you've got a message that you can give. You actually have a message that can get to us because base it all around the economy in this state. Because folks, I cannot provide core services if I don't have the income stream coming in. And the aviation industry is very well documented in these reports. I actually read it and was really impressed on how well it's put together. So just remember that you're probably doing a lot more educating than you are really advocating, and try to get to know your legislators, and always keep it in a business perspective, because quite honestly, that's what you're about.
I'm not going to say you're not doing a good job, because I have to deal with Howard Franklin, and so he teaches, and every time he walks in my office, I know one thing, he's going to tell me, he's going to give me some good news and show me a picture of a new jet. That's on Buzzard County's old jet port there, Cape Fear. But I tell you something you could do. I'll give you a piece of advice, and you can take it for what it is. All of you either know your senator or your representative or both. And it would be my advice to you is when the budget comes out, and it'll be out pretty darn soon, open it to the transportation section and to the aviation line item, and go see your representative or your senator, and you say, you see this? This is what this means to you. This is what this means to your constituents and your community. And we'd like for you to put a little more in there if you feel like it. Because the squeaky wheel gets the grease, folks. There's no doubt about that. And if you sit back and you don't take that line item to your representative or senator that you know, he or she may not even know that it's in the budget. They know there's something in there for aviation, but they may not know what it is and what it means to you and what it means to them. And that's my advice to you. Do it on an individual basis with that document.
I would think that, or I would say that, just as was just mentioned, as far as this being a part of transportation, out of the 170 members in the General Assembly, probably only those that are on the Transportation Committee know that. And I think that most members don't have a clue how aviation is done, or rail for that matter. Everything seems to gear around highways, and, infrastructure and improvements, and paving highways. And I was telling someone this morning, and those of you that fly can understand this. You hit a pothole on a highway, you're probably going to live to tell another day. Or tell another story. But infrastructure maintenance for an airport is critical. It's not somewhere where you can get behind and cut funding for maintenance. You have a pothole on the runway and it's a disaster. And in my community, with LabCorp, which has been mentioned, if we have a snowstorm in the area where we are, occasionally we might get one. It's critical that our runways be cleared instantly, because those laboratory samples have to go and have to come in, or they actually have to come in to get to the lab. There's a shelf life on that stuff. And again, that's over my head, but it's critical that we have an operation that's maintained and open and able to, because these planes go in and out all day, all night. And, I can tell you 3 o'clock in the morning is exactly when one of them comes over my house. You get used to it. But those are conversations that need to be worked into the process. This is not something that you can just kind of kick the can down the road. And it does need to be, members need to be made aware that this needs to be a bigger piece of the transportation budget, because it is the future.
this may be the last question. As a veteran, I noticed that the task force specifically targeted military and military resources around the state. And I'd like to hear from your perspective, what do you think in terms of targeting military resources, and how does that tie into ultimately the aviation system in North Carolina? Any person?
Well, let me just say, as a preface to that, our military veteran unemployment in the state of North Carolina is down to 3.5%. That's something we can all be proud of. So I don't have, the military can be important, it is important, and should be, continue to be a priority, not only for the individuals that serve and support it, but also because it is such an economic engine. I think that we're doing an exceptional job in our community college system. We do have the best community college system in the United States of America, and we are doing a wonderful job in workforce development. And I would think that aviation should take a bigger, can take a bigger role as relates to educating our military personnel and all our citizens. I think community college system, aviation go hand in hand, and hopefully we'll be able to continue to work on our military presence. Plus, we just got the infrastructure in place to grow that economy, military-based economy, and hopefully we'll continue to do that.
I think that probably, if you look back over the last few years in the General Assembly, there's been a real conscious effort to do everything possible to make us be a good steward to the military that's here. And I know there have been a number of pieces of legislation that come through that affected an area near a military base or an airfield especially. And some of these maybe involve land use planning and things like that that went on around the military base, around some of the military air facilities. And so there's a real conscious effort in the General Assembly, I think, to make sure that if there's a military need, or that we're constantly trying to make sure that where there's a need, that we service that need as a state. And I said one day in the General Assembly, I said, it looks to me if we want to get a bill passed around here, that the key is to just insert the name military somewhere in the title. Whether it has anything to do with it or not, it's going to say all right through. That's how conscious everybody is of how important that is to us for a lot of reasons, whether it's jobs or just economics. North Carolina is sort of like ground zero in some respects for the military, and we need to protect that. You don't want to wake up one day and find out that they're moving somewhere else. And so we're working hard to do that.
Any other questions from the audience? Last opportunity.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Senator Rabin, Senator Gunn, Representative Ross. Thank you for giving of your time. We thank you for your great representation to your constituents, our state. We appreciate what you do. Thank you, Herbert, for taking care of the session for us today. And we have some gifts I'm going to ask you to pass them out to the watch for you. But again, I think the message is know your representative and know them well. I don't mind telling you there's a couple of my best friends standing up there today. So we appreciate you and appreciate. So thank you again for being here.